Next up, we have 4.01, Superintendent Comments. Ms. Hamburg.
Thank you. So obviously want to start out with a huge congratulations to everybody that just left, to our A+ award winners and all the student athletes that we honored tonight. Also had the opportunity to be a part of the recent Alumni Hall of Fame inductions at both Central and North High Schools, and we'll be celebrating South High School Alumni Hall of Fame inductees on Thursday. So that's always a great event. And just wanted to give a quick shout out to our superintendent's advisory students who select all those students, all the inductees, and coordinate the event and put it on. They do all the speaking, and they just really do a nice job. So always, I say always, my second time doing it now. A lot of fun to go around to those and just see the great work our kids do in honoring our alumni. I also would like to thank Representatives Abdullahi and Lear for visiting our schools last week. We appreciate them making time in their busy schedules to tour some of our buildings and learn more about public education. We're also looking forward to a visit from Representative Lorenz, who will be coming on Friday this week, and then we have a visit scheduled with Senator Brenner in May. So looking forward to that, and again, just any opportunity we get to highlight the great work that our educators are doing, many of whom were recognized here tonight, and just continue to educate our legislators on how important public education is to our society. Speaking of public education, quick update on state funding, and Nicole, feel free to chime in here, but at our last meeting that we had at this location on April 7th, we did meet last week for the GEM Awards at Westerville North, but our last meeting here on April 7th, we shared the House's proposed budget amendment, which at that time was just a proposal, and they hadn't come out with the final piece that they voted through. And so that included a clawback for any district that had a cash balance of over 25% of the previous year's balance budget. The amended bill was changed to 30%, which, we just want to continue to educate our community on, would still be very devastating for most public school districts in Ohio, would put most public school districts into fiscal watch or fiscal emergency within a year or two, including ours. So we're very, very concerned about this. We continue, Nicole and I have testified, Christy has testified, many of our board members have paid visits and also contacted representatives and senators. And so we would continue to urge our community to help in those efforts. Just want to continue to point out that we have 609 public school districts in Ohio that serve 90% of our children. And we just want to make sure that the funding continues to be there to make sure that children get the right to the education that they deserve. And Nicole, I'll open up to anything you want to add there.
Yeah, I do just want to mention, it is extremely important that our community is reaching out to the state legislators. Like Angie mentioned, there's 609 traditional public schools that educate 90% of the students, but we're all very different. The 609 districts, we are all very different. A lot of the things that state lawmakers are trying to put into law they impact us all in different ways. I keep hearing about the 20 mil floor. Westerville Schools is not on the 20 mil floor. I keep hearing about schools that have school district income taxes. Westerville Schools does not have a school district income tax. But these are things that lawmakers are talking about, and they're treating us like we're all the same, and we are not. And so it's really important, individual stories about why public education is important to individuals is really impactful to the legislators. And so I cannot encourage people enough. This 30%, anything over 30% expenditure clawback would be detrimental to our community. It would mean we would be on the ballot nearly every year going forward. It would mean that our next ballot issue would have to be at least 2 mills higher than it was last November. It would put us in a very, very difficult situation to be able to provide the services and programs to our students that we do today. This is the House's version of the budget. The Senate is, they've been on break, last week and this week. They'll be coming back into session next week. The Senate Education Chair is Andy Brenner, who's up in the Delaware County area. He's one of our state senators that represents our area. And he has shared with us that the Education Committee is going to start having hearings on the 28th. And so they need to be hearing from our community now about how this will impact our local schools. So, and what we have been sharing with them is that we are not like the other 609 schools. Like, we all have different things and different needs. and trying to explain to them how the funding has affected us. You know, we lost $4 million in funding this year from the state already compared to last year. We gained over 100 students in the formula. The formula, as they continue to only update one side of it, hurts our community. They're continuing to not account for inflationary increases with the cost of doing business and education. And I really think that they need to hear from that. And we're also sharing with them, we heard from the Auditor of State's office tonight, you know, very happy to have our district earn that award again. But the auditor's office is putting out something at the same time that this is going on about financial health indicators that very specifically says that we would be in a cautionary situation if our fund balance fell below 50%. So things don't reconcile in my brain when I hear these things, but it is really important that we're reaching out and having conversations and that they are hearing from us in large numbers. So, thank you.
Could I just ask a question? So just to, because I feel like we're talking about it so much that we know what clawback means, we know what we mean when we say 30%. So really what we're saying is that, you know, we have this cash reserve, and if anything over that 30% of our past year's expenditures, we have to give back. So we could lose next year
$110 million.
$110 million of our budget that we would be using to provide programming, pay personnel. I mean, this is a really dire situation right now. And so when you reach out, we just ask that you ask them to strip that completely from the bill. Just completely take it out.
I do like to remind the legislators that we have a locally elected Board of Education. You know, we hear a lot about local control and local conversations, and I think our elected board understands more what our community needs than people at the state that don't really pay that much attention to us. But it is being, you know, portrayed as property tax relief, but it would mean nearly every school district would need to be on the ballot the next year. By November. I mean, it's very significant. So, but yeah, thank you for that explanation, because school funding in Ohio is extremely complicated, and there are so many things wrong with it, but this would absolutely be detrimental to our community and all 609 traditional schools, public schools.
So if nothing else, just share your story about why public education is so important to you, and to please remove this cap on our cash balance rollover.
I think I kind of noted earlier, but it's important to note, and we shared this with the legislators we've talked to, that because we are already deficit spending, so we are already bringing in, because of the cuts they've made, we are bringing in less revenue year over year than we are spending. We were using our cash, or are using our cash, as a stopgap there. So if they take that away, we would have to either and you can't even pass that much in a levy, because again, you hit a certain threshold and you wouldn't be able to collect it. So we would be looking at lots of potential cuts if they take away our cash, unless we figure out another way.
Right.
But based on what we know right now, we think that it would be really hard to bridge that gap when you're looking at losing anything over 30% of your previous year's expenditures.
We also have hundreds of millions of dollars in facilities needs. We have technology needs. We have lots of needs in this district that, you know, that cash could help with if we had stable funding from the state. But, you know, it's not like we don't need the cash should we have stable operating revenue, and that's what they're trying to portray it as, and that's just not true at all. And it's certainly not property tax relief. That they have, this is my soapbox, just so you know. But the state has continued over the last several decades to add new policy laws that has shifted the burden of paying for traditional public schools to homeowners, away from businesses, away from the state, to a homeowner. And they have continued to increase that local burden. And they had an entire committee that reviewed property tax reform over a period of a year. They heard from all kinds of experts, had lots of hearings on it. They created a document full of recommendations. This was nowhere in that. They know that they have a significant issue that they need to fix and that they need to work on, and it's not something that you can just put a Band-Aid on or take a chainsaw to and fix it overnight. And so instead of doing, the work and that's what we would like to see them do, is do the work, fix our funding system, fully funding a school funding formula, especially one that's been researched, and I think everybody agrees if it were updated appropriately and fully funded, would meet the constitutional requirements of the state of Ohio. And that would go a long way towards property tax relief. So the hope is that we have some legislators that kind of realize how all that works.
And Nicole, this is going to affect other districts around us in similar ways, not identically, but in similar ways as well.
Yeah, it will. It will affect all of us.
That's all I had tonight.